is managed by Cape Fear River Watch. It's owned by the city, and all the proceeds go to support our mission at Cape Fear River Watch. At Cape Fear River Watch, we work to protect and improve the water quality of the lower Cape Fear River basin. So that's not just the river itself, it's all the watersheds that surround the river from about Fayetteville down, and this is the Greenfield Lake watershed that we're in right now. So come with me. We're at the spillway at Greenfield Lake. The spillway was created in about the 1730s by Dr. Samuel Green. He built the spillway here to produce something here that could power his grist mill for his rice plantation. Before the spillway went in, this was just a creek that ran into the Cape Fear River. On the other side of the spillway, it's about half a mile of that creek before it gets to the river. And that water is brackish and tidal, and then above is all fresh. This is now a man-made wetland. It's a 90-acre man-made wetland, and it's really excellent at filtering out some non-point source pollutants that we'll talk about later through the root systems of these cypress trees. After Dr. Green had the property in the plantation, at one time this whole park was an amusement park. There were rides, there was even a small roller coaster, there was a dance hall, there was a petting zoo, and kids could ride a little kiddie train that went all the way around the lake. After that happened, the city bought the lake for about $25,000, and now all of the storm water is directed into the lake, and this is something that's done everywhere. The lake was so pure and fresh. Freshwater Lynn's feeds this lake, and at one time we even bottled the water out of this lake and sold it. Now you can't swim in it, you can't eat the fish out of it, and you certainly don't want to drink it. So right now we're making our way down the old creek bed. This part of the lake is the deepest part of the lake at just 12 feet. The rest of the lake is only about 5 feet on average. So here we have some yellow-bellied sliders. Yellow-bellied sliders make up the biggest population of turtles in the lake. Most of these turtles are yellow-bellied sliders. These are all yellow-bellied sliders, but we also have red-eared sliders and common snapping turtles. They're called sliders for a good reason, because as you can see, once they get spooked, they slide right into the water, except for that big guy. So we've moved into the cypress stand. Often when you get into these areas, you see more wildlife. So we came in here trying to find cool things like green herons that can sometimes be found at the base of these cypress trees, where you have swamp rose or wax myrtle, blackberry vines. They like to use that as habitat and to sort of hide out in there. You can also find least bitterns hiding out in there. There are raccoons that you can find back here, gray squirrels, of course, and if you're lucky enough, fox squirrels can be found. What we just found is this cute little guy here. He's a yellow-bellied slider. It's April, so they're everywhere right now. We saw some yellow-bellied sliders earlier. And the other thing that we can sometimes see in here are snapping turtles. These are common snapping turtles that we find here in Greenfield Lake. A lot of people think those are alligator snapping turtles, but they don't occur here. Those are only found like in the Mississippi River Basin and in coastal states, the Gulf coastal states like from Texas too. So behind me is the man tree. I've also heard it referred to as the old human tree, but it's been on the maps for at least 100 years, and it's thought to be the oldest cypress tree in the lake, although it's one of the shortest ones. You can tell it's older. It's got really wide buttress, and we think that maybe what happened was a storm, like a hurricane, came and just blew the top off of it, and it regrew into the shape that was kind of human-like. So when the storm knocked the top off this tree, if it had not been a cypress tree, most likely it would have not survived, but because it's a cypress tree, it did, obviously, and will for a long, long time. Cypress trees can be up to 2,500 years old. In fact, we have some in the Black River in the Three Sisters area that have been aged out at over over 2,600 years old. Dr. Staley, who is an endocrinologist, aged that one out at over 2,600 years, but believes that a lot of those trees in the Black River could be over 3,000 years old. Once they get to that age, they hollow out in the middle, and so you can't use those rings anymore to scientifically prove how old the tree is. But once these trees go down, they don't necessarily die, because those cypresses could be located half a mile away on land, and those provide stability and keep the tree alive. So it makes them a tree that provides some of the best habitat ever. If you're casting for fish, often you cast around trees that have fallen. These trees will fall and stay there for hundreds of years, so they make really excellent habitat. There's a green heron, the buttress of the tree. They use these buttresses to hide and also to build nests. If you can see right here, he's built a little nest. So we're at one of the few solar bees that are here in Greenfield Lake. These solar bees were put here to fight eutrophication. You can see that there are solar panels on top. Those solar panels power these propellers that are on the bottom of the lake, spinning around and around and kicking up dissolved oxygen, and that's a way to fight the eutrophication that happens in the lake. The reason why there is a lot of eutrophication at Greenfield Lake is because it's an urban lake, and so we find in this watershed a lot of impervious surfaces from things like rooftops, driveways, parking lots, and that sort of thing. So when it rains, there's no chance for that rain to filter into the ground. It becomes stormwater runoff and picks up things like pesticides and fertilizers and oil and gas from cars, pet waste, sediment, and trash, puts it into the lake eventually. Luckily, Greenfield Lake is a 90-acre wetland, and these cypress trees are really excellent at filtering out those non-point source pollutants before they make it their way to the Cape Fear River. There's an anhinga. Anhingas are super cool. A lot of people mistaken them for cormorants, but they're very different. But anhingas are really excellent anglers. They can swim under the water fast. They use their beaks to spear the fish, and they're actually very stealthy. They can stay mobile and underwater, and then as an unwary fish moves by, it'll spear it with its beak. It's got these specialized muscles in its neck and a hinge, and so it just darts out and stabs them. And then it has these backwards serrated edges on its beak that keeps the fish there, and then it surfaces and it tosses the fish up in the air and then swallows it whole, head first. There's a double-crested cormorant at the top of that cypress tree. We have a lot of cormorants at the lake, and there are also some anhingas. They're kind of hard to tell apart, but you can see that this cormorant's tail isn't that long. Anhingas' tails are much longer than that and boat-shaped. Anhingas have skinnier, longer necks as well, and their beaks are longer and more pointy. If you get really close up to male cormorants, you'll see that they have really beautiful aqua blue eyes. Over there we have 3 white ibis. White ibis have those long, curvy beaks, and it's this time of year, about wintertime through spring, you see more of them. We have one of the largest nesting colonies of white ibis just south of here on Battery Island. You might see them in your yard sometimes pecking away. They use those long beaks to get bugs underground. There they go. We came on the land so that I could show you one of the many signs that has been placed around Greenfield Lake by the city of Wilmington. It's letting people know that it's a really bad idea to feed ducks and geese bread in particular. Bread is full of carbs, and it makes the birds feel full, so they won't end up foraging for what they need to keep them healthy, things that provide them the nutrition that they need. It can give them things like avian botulism and aspergillosis if you're feeding them moldy bread as well, and it may prevent them from migrating. So really bad idea to feed them bread. It's really bad for the wildlife and also for water quality, because all those carbs make them produce more waste, and that waste ends up going into the lake, and that could be really bad for the water quality of Greenfield Lake. Another thing that is unlawful actually is to feed alligators at Greenfield Lake. You never want to do that. It can cause alligators to be more aggressive toward humans, and that can be dangerous both for the gator, because when it gets to certain length. If it's showing aggression toward humans, it might be destroyed. And also, of course, it's not safe for people and also their pets. So never feed alligators, and please don't feed the birds bread. So something you find at Greenfield Lake that is everywhere in the southeastern United States is this Spanish moss. Spanish moss is actually not a moss. It's not in the same family. It's in the bromeliad family. It's also not from Spain. It's native of the U.S. and the Caribbean, Mexico, and Central America, South America as well. Actually named by French explorers who thought that it reminded them of the Spanish conquistador's beard. Spanish moss is kind of known to have a lot of chiggers in it, but experts say that once it falls, it might get the chiggers in it, but not when it's still hanging like this. But it's really great habitat for things like spiders live in it, frogs can live in it. It gets everything it needs from the rain and the sun and the wind. So it's not parasitic, it's epiphytic. Yeah, birds use it to build their nests too. Spanish moss, 3 things that go together: Spanish moss, cypress trees, and alligators. So you know, if you see Spanish moss in a cypress tree, be on the lookout for alligators. Greenfield Lake is home to many plant species. Some of those are invasive exotic species and some are native. Here we have an excellent example of an invasive exotic species. This is wisteria. This big long trunk that's wrapping around this loblolly tree that looks like an anaconda is wisteria. It's a really old version of it. And it's really good at being invasive, and you can tell by the way it's shot across to the left to this bald cypress tree, and it's wrapping itself around that tree. It's also shot across over here to the magnolia tree, and it's wrapping around that too, choking it out. So eventually this one specimen of wisteria could harm or even kill all 3 of these trees. Speaking of invasive exotics, I've come to the shoreline of Greenfield Lake to show you a couple of things. Here's alligator weed. Alligator weed is an invasive exotic emergent aquatic plant. It's easily identifiable when you see this greenish white flower. Alligator weed is native of South America, but it has invaded Australia, New Zealand, China, Thailand, and the US, wreaking havoc. Another really cool thing here is a native species. This is duckweed, those little green dots that you see. Duckweed doesn't look like much, but it's actually some amazing stuff. It's the smallest aquatic plant in the world. This is in the Limna genus. There are 14 different species of Limna. Limna is known to be a bioremediator. It can remove heavy metals from waterways. Heavy metals like arsenic, lead, copper, zinc. So pretty special in that way. And also it can be a biofuel suitable for bioethanol production. It also can be used to feed livestock because it's really high in protein and starch. It's more digestible than pea, soy, or algae even. And it can also be used to feed humans. There are some companies that are making that happen right now. It's got a lot of micronutrients in it: vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, folate, iron, and even beta-carotene. So really protein efficient too as a crop. It might be the most protein efficient crop in the world based on land and water requirements. Duckweed, native in North Carolina. You can see it in a lot of different places, including here at Greenfield Lake. There's an American alligator basking in the sun on one of the solar bees here in Greenfield Lake. American alligators are extremely cool. They are like living dinosaurs. You're so lucky to have them here. This one's pretty big. You can tell how big an alligator is by looking at its eye and then looking at its nose. Normally you don't see it. You're not lucky enough to see it completely out of the water like this. So often all you'll see is its head. And then you can know how long it is by looking at the length from where the eye is and where the tip of the nose is. It's about to go down. So you can see now, tip of the eye to the nose might be about 7 inches. You can then know that he's about 7 feet in length. That's 8 inches, 8 feet, and so on. Alligators are known to brumate. They don't hibernate, they brumate, similar to hibernation. wide ski. Hey, so now we're at Lions Bridge over Greenfield Lake. This bridge has been featured in a lot of photographs and also films. It was built over 75 years ago by our local Lions Club here in Wilmington. I love this bridge because one of my favorite movies of all time that got me interested in horror movies was called Silver Bullet. It's about werewolves, hence the Silver Bullet, but also the kid that played in the movie was paralyzed and he was in a wheelchair, called the Silver Bullet. He was really fast. So there's a scene in the movie where he's being chased by the werewolf over this bridge, and it was a scene that caught me forever. It got me into that whole genre. And this is the bridge, Lions Bridge here at Greenfield.